those collaborations and those partnerships to leapfrog over the United States and the work that we put in place initializing the very technologies that we may one day be threatened with having to re-import into this country. China is also learning the lesson and watching us carefully and matching their incredible ability to literally reverse engineer anything and everything that is developed and placing their massive industrial strength behind it. There is no doubt that should they want to and should we surrender the lead, they will overtake us. The bottom line is, if we don't move on hydrogen fuel cell technologies and the vehicles built from them, and we do not move forward, someone else will, and we will end up buying it from them, just as we have ended up buying hybrid technology from the very competitors who took away from us after we invented it and moved that technology forward. We will be reliant on these foreign producers for this clean technology in the same way that we rely on foreign oil right now to power our automobiles. Let's look at a specific on the next slide. Germany, an ally and an industrial partner, has developed a logical plan with government infrastructure developments and hydrogen fuel cell automobiles to roll out H2 fueling stations over a very short period of time. To the far right, we see in 2013 some 150 fueling stations, and by 2017, 1,000 hydrogen fuel cell filling stations, allowing the Germans to access hydrogen technology all over their countries. In just 4 short House of Representatives election cycles, they will be done. And we will be wondering, how did it happen? How were we left behind? This is because countries all over the world have or are developing national hydrogen plans. Madam Speaker, allow me to show you in the next slide who some of those players in the global market are. Germany and Japan are leading globally and leapfrogging ahead of the United States. China is coming on strong, and in the past has not respected other nations' intellectual property rights. This will allow them to not only catch up quickly, but surpass us. And believe you me, they will, and they are. Korea is also stepping up with its manufacturing partnership with Hyundai. All over the globe, we see other countries realizing the promising future of this technology. We invented it here. We developed it here. We are manufacturing it here, and yet we are at the cusp of surrendering it here. In the big picture, manufacturers from Germany, Japan, Korea, and China are now accelerating their movement forward, and they're doing so quickly with a massive government research and development program. They will likely soon have large fuel cell fleets on the roads, even larger than General Motors' current 119 research and development car fleet. They're installing thousands of hydrogen fueling stations that will relieve their countries from the burden of foreign oil and establish a viable energy infrastructure that supports clean, renewable energy production within their own countries, independent of importation. And they will be creating the tens of thousands of new green jobs that should be created and kept here in the United States of America. We've seen this before. Not too long ago, this country invested in battery electric vehicle technology. And I'm not talking about the investments that came out of the recent stimulus bill, but rather the investments that were made back in the 1980s. The Department of Energy invested to kickstart the technologies and advance them towards production, and a large automobile manufacturer in the United States built a small fleet of battery electric vehicles that were placed on the road with real-world drivers, sort of like where GM is today with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. The United States, in particular one state in the United States, California, then shifted its focus, and the programs became economically unviable and went away quite dramatically. Today, leaders in this technology, battery automotive technology, are in Korea, China, and Japan, and yet the research and development was done here in the United States of America. By the way, this is not an anomaly. I could have told you the same story, but replaced battery vehicles with the word hybrid vehicles. And yet, last year, as the price of gasoline spiked and the United States consumer market focused on hybrid vehicles, there were no commercially available, mass deployable, domestically manufactured hybrid vehicles. Why? Because we embarked on that technology and we allowed foreign manufacturers to capture it, thus forcing us to re-import it at significant capital costs to the United States. If all the other major countries other than the United States have a very significant program in place, what do they know that we don't know? Well, here's an aspect of it, Madam Speaker, that I would like to leave you with tonight. Allow me to conclude with one final slide. This is not necessarily only an issue of commercial capabilities or of industrial capabilities. It is an issue of national security. The United States military sees a need for independent energy capabilities. This was recently outlined in an independent report by the Defense Science Board Task Force on DoD Energy Strategy. In recent letters from senior DoD officials, one individual quoted, "Domestic leadership in advanced technologies such as fuel cells is of national importance." The task force concluded that the Department of Defense faces two primary energy challenges. Department of Defense energy operations suffer from unnecessarily high and growing battle space fuel demand. Let's face it, an M1A2 Abrams tank powered by a gas turbine engine using aviation fuel burns a lot of gas. And we have seen over and over and over again in land, air, and sea warfare that the logistical requirements of moving fuel is one of the most important battlefield criteria. In fact, in my own life, I learned at advanced war schools such as the National War College and the Naval War College that amateurs talk about bullets and guns, and professionals talk about logistics. And logistics harbor around the movement of petroleum products for our aircraft, our tanks, and our ships. And we are increasingly and at farther ranges dependent on that. In fact, Madam Speaker, just recently on the front page of a major Washington political newspaper, the headlines read that a gallon of fuel used by the United States military in Afghanistan is costing the United States taxpayer $400. Likewise, military installations, both overseas and of some significant national security curiosity right here at home, are completely dependent on a civilian electrical infrastructure grid. When the lights go out in New York City, they go out in any military base on the same electrical grid. There is no independent powering sources. This is not a position that we want our military to be in. Hydrogen fuel cells can help the military address its own petroleum reduction requirements. Non-tactical vehicle applications, these are the everyday administrative vehicles used all over the United States by the DoD, are a wonderful place to introduce this technology and move forward. And stationary hydrogen fuel cell storage and requirements are also a significant national security increase for our shoreside installations. Fuel cells in non-tactical vehicles will later enable tactical applications. And while as it seems far-fetched that we may one day have a fuel cell-powered tank, Madam Speaker, I offer for consideration that those on the battlefields of the Civil War would have had a hard time imagining a gas turbine power aviation fuel Abrams M1A2 tank. We simply cannot rely on surrendering the promise of this technology and shipping it overseas. Now, Madam Speaker, with total transparency, I must